that big dream, and don't be afraid to have it.
We found that our culture had never been very valued. It had been here, people had done it for years, people had done it to earn a living, some people had done it just to enjoy, some people had relatives or parents or grandparents who had done it. But we found that the general public, people outside our area, really didn't value the amount of it, the quality of it, the fact that we had a strong education base, and that we had a long history of it that was very important in the history of our country. Most people couldn't figure out you could earn a living. They thought of it as a hobby. They thought of it as additional income, but not the major source of income for a family. And we discovered many people who were earning their living and doing a very good job and living very nicely because their work was good. So we found the thing that we needed to do. We didn't need to teach it. We had plenty of good schools who taught craft. We didn't need to sell it. We had plenty of shop fairs and festivals and so forth. We didn't need to do any of that. We needed to help them find a market. We just needed to tell the story of how good it was.
North Carolina's Blue Ridge National Heritage Area is a place of immense beauty and a region with an abundance of natural resources. The area's first inhabitants, the Cherokee, made good use of the region's plentiful raw materials. When the Scots, Irish, and German settlers came to the area in the 17th and 18th centuries, they brought with them the tools, skills, and craft traditions of their homelands. In the beginning, crafts were created for function: the spinning, weaving, woodworking, pottery, quilting, carving, basket and broom making traditions that passed from generation to generation enabled the early settlers to fulfill their own needs. In the closing years of the 19th century, a new craft influence was introduced into the region when George Vanderbilt, heir to a railroad fortune, decided to build a monumental home in Asheville.
The handmade object is, I think, appreciated by everybody, but I'm not sure that there's the level of awareness in America about the value of the American handmade object. And I think the most important thing about American craft is that there is a real need to educate the public, and I think it needs to start in very early childhood, in elementary school, in the first 6 grades of school, so that
Right.
Americans understand the value of working with the hand. We live in such a technological age where industry rules, and the more, the better. I think there are a lot of potters who are content with not being rich, but with being able to produce. And another thing that I find so interesting is so many people, if you ask them to define art, it's something that hangs on the wall. Art, it has to have the word sculpture attached to it. So many people don't recognize the three-dimensional object as art. And yet the ancient pot that's in the Boston Museum of Art that was made 2,000 years ago, we call that high art. And yet the same pot could be made today And people, so many people think, well, that's craft, and I'm not sure there's a difference. Craft to me is your technique. Art is the finished object that rises above the ordinary. And I think again, it's that language that everyone can speak. A child who's gifted in school, and the child who is very slow in school, put them in the art room, and they're equal.
The medium,
Yeah, the medium of art is the great equalizer. And again, as I said, art keeps you honest. It comes from within. It's you.
What are we doing to address the needs of the business? I mean, the needs, and this is our business. Is this what we really do? That we partner in the development of community strategies, provide forums for developmental partnerships, promote the handmade, leverage sectors to create extraordinary impact. I really like that one, Gary. Forging mutually beneficial partnerships, leveraging the resources of our communities, and promoting the understanding and appreciation of the handmade object. This, to me, is the meat of the whole thing. And then the third question was, what principles or beliefs guide our work? And these are our values. And this is where we get into the protect our resources, preserve and enrich cultural, historical, and the community way of life, to act as a catalyst to transform, preserve through partnerships, ensure partnerships are successful and sustainable.
I feel like our mission at Handmade is so pivotal to what's happening here. It's in Asheville, but really, since we're a regional organization, the idea or the mission of Handmade is playing itself out in many different ways in different communities in Western North Carolina. For instance, here in Asheville, where you have a much more of an urban environment, you have a nice collection of artists working in artist studios. There's the issues of affordable housing, the issues of bringing the agriculture and business, like the small farmers markets to the city. Those kind of issues we're working with and solving. But then you might have some rural towns where the needs or the mission of Handmade is very different. Our projects with revitalization and helping these small towns figure out what benefit they have and then trying to figure out how to bring people to them. But the thing that I think Handmade does so well within all that is we let each community identify their own personal strength. Communities had a great deal to learn from each other, but what was missing was a way to connect them. And I guess Handmade became the connector. So we would find the money and get them together, travel them from one community to the other, buy their lunch, let them spend time, visit. They could do that 2 or 3 times. We would help them do it. Mm-hmm. After that, they would do it on their own. And we tried to match up communities that had a lot in common.
Over the last 30 years, the economy has changed. Most of this industry of textiles and furniture and some of the tobacco have left the region. It is no longer viable. And so a great deal of the economy now falls into tourism-based. Sustainability, many of our communities have to learn to adapt to the economy of change. And in fact, many of the individual businesses have to retool their thinking. They are building in an economic base based on arts and craft and other related issues. Different West Jefferson and several are really broadening their economic base, so they're drawing upon a more consistent market rather than just the summer tourist season.
We had seen so many of our communities lose their sources of income and their sources of jobs, especially in furniture and textiles here in our part of the world. we worked hard to start with tourism because we thought it would connect communities. Instead of competing with each other about who would get the visitor, we decided we wanted to see if people, by working together, could expand and grow tourism. And it was very interesting because it was the artisan community that taught us this. They taught us how to share. They taught us that when a visitor came to their studio and wanted to see some work, and maybe they didn't like their work particularly, but were looking for another look or another glaze or another design, the craft community would say, oh, well, let me call ahead and see if another person, if John is down the road, and I'll introduce you to him and you'll like his work.
The U.S. Forest Service started with this project. Pisgah Forest, and the Vanderbilts gave most of the national forest, most of their lands were given
to the National Forest System. But this was all a part of the National Forest at one time, but then the university was able to secure it for the Arboretum. They have now combined it with something they call the Bent Creek Institute, which is the North Carolina Biotech Program. And this is where they're experimenting with natural selection fibers. It's where we want the craft community involved.
Do you want to drop off up here?
No, we want to go here.
The university system let us use the property, and we were able to raise the money for this building. And they use both buildings when they need to. It's been a nice collaboration. But we could not affect the curriculum of the university system. That was just a no-no. And it was okay, because what happened, they were able to bring the faculties together, the arts faculties from the three mountain universities, form part of the board, an advisory board. The university has its own board that runs it. And they were able, the first thing they did was have an exhibit of the work of the faculty of the three universities together for the first time.
I'm on a contract with the Handmade Numerical Organization to provide the administration of the Small Towns Revitalization Program for the organization. That program began in about 1996 and initially was 4 towns involved in the program, and over the next 10 years we've increased that to 13 towns where we provide assistance to these communities in community development issues and projects to bring about not only physical change to their community, improvements to their physical environment, but also, more importantly, to provide civic development.
Maybe what's something that's special and unique and fabulous about Andrews, North Carolina is very different than, say, Bakersville, North Carolina. So we at Handmade will put together our resource team of people who will go into these towns and or help them identify what their strength is and what they, how we can help them preserve what they have that's their strength.
But I think the first step is, do you want to do a regional trail system? You brand it, you name it, it becomes yours, you become identified with it. There are a lot of pluses, that's why I love them so. But it's also a lot of work. And it's going to present some new thinking to all your communities too.
We have so many craftspeople. We have almost 5,000 craftspeople who live in our region. A lot of people will come here to the schools and never leave. Start their work, begin their studios, share a space with somebody at the school that they've met. That happens a lot.
My parents started up a little, garage type studio, family business down in Columbus, Georgia back in the early 70s. We used to go to festivals and that sort of thing down there, and Dad taught pottery for the city recreation department there. And I guess it was back in 1988, he was ready to try making pots full time. It's still a family business. My parents still make some of the pottery. They spend more time in the garden and with grandkids now than anything else. But my brother also operates a shop, which is part of the business, over in Waynesville.
Design is critical to any economy, whether it's the automotive economy or housing or goods that are produced or made. Design is just key to that. And I think our work with good design and the ability to experiment with different materials and so forth is what the world of craft can contribute. So I think craft can be used for research and development. It's essential to good design, and it reflects the kinds of economies we're used to that can't be outsourced. It's grown here, it stays here. That's what we're looking for our communities to spend their time and efforts on those things that will not leave us.
We've also been really good at sort of looking ahead to what the issues are and trying to figure out how we can be on the forefront of solving some of those things.
A good example would be our craft business incubators, where craftspeople are starting their businesses, only we located ours at landfills. We wanted to use the methane from the landfill as the power source for our glass furnaces, our ceramic kilns, our metal smithers.
And consequently from that first project, we have some other landfill projects that we're working on. And we've gotten calls from county managers all over the country wanting to know about the project and how it's done. And it's a fabulous solution to, an innovative solution to not only the energy, the changing energy climate we're seeing, but also the creation of studios for artists.
Sustainability is much more than environmental. That's certainly a core part of our mission here. But it's the interlocking circles. It's the environmental side of sustainability. It's the economic side of it, because obviously you have to be concerned about money and whether things are affordable. And the third part of the sustainability model is what? You got economic, environmental, but you have people.
In a world where the global economy is very dominant, there has been a movement to provide a different way to earn a living. So the place-based economy is where you provide jobs and work and income that cannot be outsourced to another country or cannot be technologically clicked away with a computer. It has to remain where it is. Tourism is a fine example. You come to a place to experience that place. The environment is very strong. Craft emanates out of the environment.
When the community strengthened, they build a base for expanding job bases to address local issues, provide markets for local activities. So they're really trying to expand that economic base by building a stronger civic community. We will have some of our communities carrying on activities, very simple community gatherings, events of the social and cultural nature, music, games, other things, dances, that might not directly impact the economy, but it builds, strengthens the community base.
Bigger than anything that these people and myself are looking for is a sense of belonging that is no longer all that active in many of towns throughout America. What we've done is we have this rugged individualism that has run this country for a long time and has done us great service. But now there's some time that needs to be, there's time now for interdependence.
We had one particular grant program called the North Carolina STEP program, where the state offered individual grants to more than up to 20 communities in the state. This was for small towns, and our communities did not express an interest in entering that. They realized that there would only be 20 communities, and some of their communities might get the monies, others wouldn't, and they really were not competitive with each other. But several of the communities said, why don't we ask them if we can go in as a group? We will take less money and share the resources and work together like we've always done. So this was very unique. The program in the state did not anticipate this, and actually they were intrigued by it and actually changed their rules and guidelines.
I have always said here at Handmade that our database is the lifeblood of the organization, because without that strong database, without that collection of names and addresses and phone numbers, we can't do anything. One of our goals is to really make this information and tool accessible to artists, but then make sure that they're accessible to us too, through things like our craft registry. That's been a really very, very important tool to make sure that artists know what's going on, but especially that people know who they are and how they can be reached and what their strengths are.
We are asking our craftspeople to be very entrepreneurial, to be good business people. We as an organization needed to do the same thing. So the staff at Handmade has been able, each staff person is supposed to raise 1/4 of their own income.
We very much intend to continue to seek grants, look for that kind of funding, while we're also trying to figure out how we can package and sell what we do, so that there's also a stream of earned income, be it from our publications, our teaching and lecturing, our consulting, our products. We're gonna, I think from Handmade you'll see more of a diversity of that income, those income streams. Handmade is continually sort of redefining what projects they're taking on, because one of our guiding principles is to always work in partnership. So we can, if we either identify a project that we think needs to be done, or if a partner comes to us and says, hey, we have this idea, will you help us? That is one thing that helps dictate what we do and where we're going to put our energy.
We consider each funder a partner, not just the funder of money, but they're our partner. We feel free to ask them to help us figure a new way to do this. They in return will ask us to give them good examples of what we've done that they can share with their other grantees or people they give money to.
First thing that comes to my mind is the craft and the craftsman, but to think about partnerships internationally with museums, with other nonprofits, with educational institutions, and kind of all those other ingredients that make up a community is very exciting to me. And I'm very positive and optimistic that we could do something like that. I think Handmade has a tremendous amount to offer in terms of our expertise and sort of lessons learned, but I think we have a tremendous amount to learn from other cultures and countries.
The process could be valid in other places, in other countries, depending upon the structure and understanding of that area to the process. It would take guidance from the individuals to come and learn the process well and transpose that process back into another country. And the communities do not have the resources to hire people in that respect, so the guidance must be provided from a higher level, an organizational structure that's supported by some agencies, nonprofits, governmental entities, to provide the liaisons, the support, and the guidance to these local communities. They will have to be done on a voluntary basis.
Our name is Handmade in America, but we're really trying to serve and promote Western North Carolina. So when is it regional, when is it national, and when are we prepared to go international? And I think there's very much a need for handmade all over the world. The concept of who we are and what we do is so needed everywhere.